nerds, 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 nerds.
What up, everybody? Welcome back. It is Man Without Fear Monday. And do you like when big mobsters turned mayors overtake the city with their crazy rules, such as banning vigilantes? Do you like forgetting things and knowing that you forgot something, but you can't quite put your finger on it? Well, if you do, then this episode's for you, because we are diving into the biggest, one of the biggest by Chip Zdarsky, Devil's Reign, right here. This is a culmination of a lot of events. I know we've been covering Charles Soule's run. However, this is getting ready to take place. You know, they're going to kind of dive into this with Daredevil Born Again Season 2. And so we figured, why not take a little halftime break, go into Devil's Reign. We've got Chip Zdarsky is on this one. Marco Cicchetto, is doing the art. Colorist is Marcio Menez. Jeez, I am not doing well today. And then letters is Clayton Cowles. That's what we got. Make sure you subscribe anywhere that you get your, Man Without Fear Mondays podcast, social medias, all of that kind of good stuff. It's every single Monday. This is the place to be. So Megan, we're here. I know we're about to do MegaCon. We're about to get season 2 of Born Again. What are your thoughts on, the Devil's Reign storyline?
Well, first of all, I know we did say to a lot of people online last week that we were going to be doing Daredevil Yellow this week, but we are having a very special guest of ours to show up to talk about it. So that'll be next week. So stick around for that.
Yes.
But Devil's Reign is easily my favorite event of all of Marvel Comics. I am such a sucker for street level and vigilantism. And this puts such a shine on all of these characters. And happy we're talking about it today.
Honestly, I would say it's probably one of my favorites as well, as far as team ups go, because you get everybody. You get Captain America, you get Ben Reilly for whatever reason. Miles Morales is in it. The Purple Children, which this is actually a good picking up point, because if you remember last week, we were talking how the Purple Children essentially made everybody forget that Matt Murdock was Daredevil. And so that Kingpin forgot, everybody forgot. So that's kind of the biggest catalyst to this event, in which it kind of kicks off with, Kingpin kind of being like, I remember something. I don't remember what. This is how it is. I don't know why Saturdays for the Boys banners popped up, so we'll go ahead and hide that real quick. But yeah, anyways, so we've got this, and Kingpin's trying to basically remember, who is this? Like, I knew who you were at one point. I can't put my finger on it. And it just really kicks off from there. Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, and Tony Stark. Who's who is in this run? And honestly, it's without a doubt probably the peak of Chip Zdarsky, whenever he kind of took over and went to town with Daredevil.
Doesn't it kind of say like how strong Fisk is and how strong his will is, that he knows he knew who Daredevil was and he doesn't, but most everyone else is just like, oh, I don't know who that is.
Yeah, everybody seems to have forgotten, but Fisk is like, something isn't right here. I'm not sure what it is. I don't know what it is. It's like when you forget, you lose a remote and you're like, dang it, I knew I put it somewhere. I don't know what it, or you're walking to a room, you're supposed to do something, yes, you can't remember. And then all of a sudden you do remember. Yeah, Fisk is will. And he even talks about that when the Purple Man kind of tries to use his mind power briefly. And he goes, you idiot, my will is too strong. It doesn't work on me.
Yeah. And I think that gets overlooked about Fisk a lot, because many people just think he's just a very sinister man.
Yeah.
But he does have things about him that could make him very extraordinary.
Well, for sure. First, it really does, because as we kind of kick into this, he's mayor, or he's running for mayor, I should say, at this point, and their entry or re-election, whatever it may be, he's reintroducing this, basically all superheroes are going to be outlawed, and it goes into effect right away. And so he kind of brings on the Thunderbolts task, which is interesting because we've get, Shocker's a part of it. Dr. Octopus is only into it because he hears that the Fantastic Four have something they're cooking up in their lab. And then, we've got, what's his name? Poor man's Captain America, or should I say Captain Americant?
U.S. agent.
Yes. And so, the Rhino is at one point. So all these villains kind of take the side of Fisk, and they're out there with drones, all this technology. They're, utilizing everything, Fisk gets a hold of the Purple Man because he thinks Purple Man is the one that made him forget everything. And it turns out that no, it was the children. That's kind of when he finds out that the Purple Man also has children. I know we're kind of jumping around in this story, but
It's
that's the
fine.
catalyst of what happens. And what do you think at this point too? Luke Cage and Jessica Jones show up. They've got a kid, and they're out there laying low, but then they decide to put their faces out there and save a bus full of people.
I think it's not very surprising because anywhere the Purple Man is involved, Jessica Jones is gonna be there.
Yeah.
At some point, in Jessica Jones' own stories, the Purple Man controlled her daughter, Danielle, to get to Jessica. So she's not messing around. Luke Cage does not mess around about his family,
No.
and they do not mess around about Fisk. So it wasn't surprising, but it was very, very welcomed because it's like, "The Defenders."
It is nice to see too. And the biggest thing too with them is we've never hidden our face. So that's their whole thing is we're not hiding our face. Maybe we should lay low, but when things kind of push comes to shove, they out themselves. And that's when Shocker shows up and Luke handles him pretty easily. It's kind of fun actually. And then, meanwhile, we've got Sue and Reed are being paid a visit. They're getting arrested. And that's when Ben Grimm, he doesn't play around. You see a more sinister, not really sinister, but like Papa Bear, he's
Yeah.
the uncle to have around. He was basically going to clobber some more people, but hey, you know what? We got to get the kids safe, and they escape, and everybody starts to kind of meet up. And it's a who's who at this point of Tony Stark, Captain America, everybody's meeting up. And, is there anybody that they left out that you were kind of like, man, I do wish they included?
Uh, Echo. That's I
Oh,
well,
yeah.
yeah, that's I really hope she shows up in season 2 of Daredevil Born Again
Same.
because I think with her given her history with Fisk, I think she would have sat there well. But can I say, like, in the jail cell, like, it is such a star-studded event because you have Reed, Sue, you have Moon Knight, you have, like,
Yeah, they started off with
everyone.
capturing Moon Knight first and
Yeah.
foremost. That was crazy. Now he's just thrown in jail.
Yeah, it's like, dude. And for them, do you think it's, like, 2 for the price of 1?
Oh, yeah, because they're
Yeah.
capturing, basically 3 personalities at once, but
Yeah.
they don't really know it. And I do like, in the jail too, it is a lot of that, and then they try to mess with Reed and Sue, but,
Mhm.
Sue's a badass, man. Like,
Yes.
she's not backing down. She takes the tray to the man's face. Like, if there's somebody I wanna get in jail with, first of all, I think it would be the Richards.
Yeah, this I always well, when Fantastic Four: The First Steps was coming out and people are like, "Oh, Sue's gonna be the one in charge, Sue this, Sue that." I always go back to this moment and say, like, this is who she is. She's not just Reed Richards' wife. She's
No.
not just the mother of the group. She is a badass in her own sense. She does not need any help and she will handle a situation, and it shows beautifully here.
And I would say that also she's always the one that's more ready for a fight than Reed is or anybody
Yeah.
else is as well. She's not one to back down when things are getting kind of, precarious, if you will. She's stepping up to the plate and ready to fight at a moment's notice. So, it doesn't surprise me. And I do enjoy that scene. And then we have Tony as the crew's all together. Tony basically is like, hey, I'm going to run for mayor. And my first thought was, "Oh boy," and they make a good point because Luke goes, "No, man, rich on rich. That's not really what the people need right now. We don't need rich person versus rich person." Which really, for being a 2017 whatever event, 2018, yeah, some things just don't grow old.
It just like, I remember first reading that and it's like, "Yeah, Luke gets it. Why don't we get it?" But whatever. But he does
Yeah,
I think that also does a really good job at showing that Luke he's always wanted to stick up for Harlem. He's always wanted to make the neighborhood a better place, and he shows it when he says, "Look, it's not the best idea. We need someone who is a person of the people," which is
yeah.
Luke Cage.
He knows how to talk to people,
Yeah.
and you see it a lot throughout this. If anything, this is more just as much as a Luke Cage story as it is Daredevil, who realizes everything is his fault. He's kind of the sins of his past are coming out. Speaking of which, I know we talked about last week, his twin brother We mentioned him last week's episode, how he sometimes Mike shows up. Well, old Mike is pretending to be Matt Murdock, and he's hanging out with Butch, Fisk's kid, who is the kingpin currently, but he doesn't really seem like the kingpin that wants to do crime.
No, he is I have such weird feelings about him because if you guys remember in Daredevil Born Again, Fisk hires that Daniel?
I think it's Daniel. It's the kid, the Sopranos son.
Yeah.
There. Oh my
Yeah,
god,
I
I'm
think
blanking.
it's
Hey, look, there we go. I'm feeling like somebody erased my memory. I'm like Fisk right now. Jeez.
I think it's Daniel because I can hear Fisk saying, "Daniel."
Yeah,
Yeah, so I thought he was gonna end up being Butch.
I
Wait,
mean,
he
he
still might,
still
he
kind
still
of
might.
could fill that role because Fisk doesn't have any kids that we know of yet.
Yeah, and I was like, "Man, if he did, that would really turn things around for him, Fisk as Kingpin because it
Mhm.
doesn't they don't have the same goals." But Butch in the comics, he's just vibing.
He's
Like
just there, man. Like, I'm rich. I'm Kingpin. Leave me alone. I got my best friend Mike, not Matt Murdock, hanging out. Like, he doesn't want anything to do with his dad. Every time his dad shows up, he reminds him what a piece of crap he is. And go
yeah.
ahead, I dare you. I dare you touch me. And he stands toe to toe with Fisk, knowing that Fisk won't do anything to him.
Yeah, I think that's the kinda son that, Kingpin needs, though.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't need because you can see a lot of that in a young Kingpin when he was younger and his dad told him what to do. He was abusive, he was rude, but now he has the exact opposite of a son that will not allow that, which I think Kingpin has always wanted in a kid.
I think to a degree, he's always kind of wanted somebody to kind of push back at him too, and of course, when certain people do, he kills them. But at a certain point, when Vanessa kind of pushes back in the show, for example, he kind of like turns him on in a weird way. So he's got some issues there. So to a degree, he does want that pushback and everything like that. So it'd be interesting. But Butch is a big part of this story as well because we think that Matt Murdock is hanging out with Butch at this point. We don't know they're same people. Everybody's kind of, hanging out, talking. Ben Riley gets saved because after he gets his butt whooped by Taskmaster and crew. Which, how do you feel about? I missed something because I'm not much of a big Spider-Man fan, but Ben Riley is the current Spider-Man here. What were your thoughts? Did you already know what was going on? Because I'm not too keen on what was happening with Spider-Man at this point.
At this point, I was not kind of aware of it because I didn't do a deep dive on Ben Riley until much later.
Yeah,
He's just such I'm not a
I
big
don't
fan of
care,
the
I
clones. Like,
guess.
yeah, it's like it's just another clone who they tried to make into something. And, like, I liked when he was Chasm, but he does go off on his own as Spider-Man at some point, but Ben Riley has always been about jealousy of Peter Parker
Yeah,
and Peter Parker's life. So it's just like, why is he here? Who
he's
invited him?
there. Peter's not here at this point. He's here, Miles is here, but, he sets himself up, fights Taskmaster and everybody in Whiplash inside of the Daily Bugle and kind of gets kidnapped, but gets saved. And that's when they're putting the collars on people to take away their powers.
Yeah.
And I do like this scene because Daredevil's essentially saying, I'm going to go after Fisk. Like, this has to stop ASAP. And he stands up to Captain America and is like, look, I'm going with or without you. And I like this because it's Cap kind of getting a taste of his medicine because this is another, Sokovia Accords for the MCU people, but that Superhero Registration Act, which they allude to in this as well.
Yeah, Superhuman Registration Act has been a huge thing in the comics, and it has been the catalyst of many, many events and many comics, many plots. And it's just so interesting to me in here because Cap is so like, "No, you can't do this. But we gotta have a plan. We gotta do this." And Daredevil's like, "Was this your first time? Have
Like,
you
dude,
never met Kingpin?"
yeah, he's not going to stop here. We have to basically take him out totally. And at this point, Kingpin's going after the Purple Children, and it's gets to a point where even Rhino, we've got Rhino out there, and he's basically, hey guys, I don't want to fight you. Take this badge, and the drones won't bother you. They're going after kids. I've got a lot of villains who you think are bad guys are not necessarily bad guys because going after kids is a step too far for them, for example.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, well, thank you. At least some villains, yeah, they're out there for the money, the whatever, but not every villain is in it to just do the worst of the worst, like Kingpin might be or whatever, whatever. And that was kind of nice to see too.
Yeah, and also, like, the villains in Dark Reign are so interesting to me. Like, Doc Ock, he has his own little series
Yeah.
out of, Devil's Reign, and so I was like, "Why are you here? Do you have
Well,
enough time on your hands with that whole thing?" Which was a fun series, it was great. I'm not a big Doc Ock fan, but
I'm not either
it
too much, but
I know,
he
I just
shows up and he's got, superior Hulk and Wolverine and Ghost Rider with him,
it
and
was
he turns
just so
them into, like,
weird.
Doctor Octopuses, and I thought that was a really random thing
Yeah.
because, again, I'm not well read on what's happening with Spider-Man and his villains and everybody else at this point.
It was very weird. All of it was really weird, but it was I think it still added a lot of depth to all of the whole thing in general,
Yeah.
because you have flavor you have every kind of flavor here. You have every kind of villain, and even some of the heroes are starting to feel like villains because they're not on Daredevil's side, but Daredevil is the guy who should be leading this whole thing.
Yeah, and because he's the biggest, him and arguably him and Fisk have had the most beef. And at
Mhm.
this point, too, I mean, you even have three different sides, if not more, at this point. You've got Doc Ock doing his own thing. You've got the Avengers kind of just, hey, we're doing our thing here, trying to protect everybody's street level side. We've got Kingpin and his people, and really four sides, because then we got Butch just being like, leave me out of it. And it leads to some really crazy fight
Yeah.
sequences. And we've got a lot of really beautiful fights. She-Hulk gets involved, and which I was pumped to see her in there. And
Yeah.
Cap is fighting this version of Wolverine, and there's just people getting whooped left and right. Meanwhile, Elektra is here. She's also in her Daredevil suit as well. Um, and all the while, Fisk is kind of showing some remorse because he just wants to take Mary and be like, hey, it should just be the two of us. Maybe I don't care about being mayor. Maybe this has gotten a little out of hand to a degree.
That part was also very, very weird to me. When I first read it, it was like, "Who is Mary?" It never clicked to me that she was Typhoid Mary. It
Yeah.
took way too long to click. Made no
Her and
sense.
Fisk are a thing, and he's basically like, I think the two of us should just kind of get out of here. I've kind of done a little too much, and so they're kind of thinking about that. But then he suddenly remembers that Matt is Daredevil, and from there kind of spirals a little bit out of control because he then goes, finds Mike Murdock after, well, he beats Foggy, and Foggy gets put in the hospital, which I do feel bad for Foggy in this a little bit. He gets beaten up pretty hardcore and gets put in the hospital, man.
He does, and I believe this was before he even got diagnosed with cancer. So
It
it's like
is.
the hits keep coming.
Yeah, and he even tells Matt, I absolve you, all that kind of stuff, sure. But you do feel a little bit for Foggy. And then Fisk finds Mike Murdock, who's actually pretending to be Matt Murdock. He ends up killing him. And what were your thoughts in that moment where he brutally just has him against the wall and beats his skull in, basically?
I think at this point, I was still kinda like, "It's Matt. Come on,
Yeah.
guys, it's Matt." And then he killed him, like, "Oh, it's not Matt. Never
'Cause I
mind."
was waiting for at least Daredevil to pop in and save him at the last minute, but he
And he
doesn't.
didn't. Yeah,
Yeah, they straight let him die in this, and I thought, first of all, part of me is like, "Thank God," because I think the idea of Matt having a twin brother is kinda stupid to begin with,
very
but
much.
it made sense in this story because now Matt is fueled with hate and revenge, and it kinda leads us to some big moments here where Matt leaves the big fight. Everybody's like, "Okay, thought he was a man without fear. Apparently not." He shows up and he's got Fisk. They're going toe to toe. He's about to kill him. And that's when even Elektra goes, hey, man, you're not a murderer. I'm a murderer, but you're not. And kind of gets him to stop here. It's a very intense moment that we almost saw in season 3 of Daredevil, the Netflix series.
I think this is also a really good example of how much Elektra has changed as a hero because she
Mhm.
is so bloodthirsty at the beginning. She wants death and she does not care who gives it to her. But now she respects Matt enough to know, like, this will change you. This will
Yeah.
hurt you. Do not do it. I can do it, but you cannot do it.
I mean, it would be him going too far. She's fighting Typhoid Mary at this point. She's saying like your parlor tricks are nothing, essentially, peasant. I've been born and bred to kill. You're just nothing. Beats her, and then Matt's about to stab, and that's when she steps in and it's like, dude, hey, remember who you are. And I do think it's something huge because so many iterations of Elektra, even in the live action, she is trying to get Matt to cross that line.
Yeah.
But here for kind of the first time, we see, hey, this isn't you. Don't do this because you're never going to come back from it. And it's a very beautiful moment amongst the entire chaotic event.
Yeah, because we finally see someone supporting Matt in the way that he actually needs. Not, "We'll follow you. We'll take down Fisk. We'll do this." It's someone looking out for him,
Mhm.
which is wild that it is Elektra.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bananas.
And all the while this is kind of going on, the other purple children have had their powers drained. So there's really only one left, Joseph. And the purple man's out. He's turned the city against them. And Luke Cage basically takes the blockers off, puts him on Joseph, and he kind of gets mind controlled. And there's this moment where you think Luke Cage is going to kill him, but it's another beautiful moment because he just ultimately overcomes the power and shows his willpower, which I thought was dope. And he puts his hands on his shoulders. He's like, hey, man, you don't have to do this either. And these things are kind of happening simultaneously. And it's two very beautiful moments because it shows you that, yes, Luke Cage is the right man for this city.
Yeah. I like this Luke Cage's personality and how well he's written as a character just shines throughout this whole event. And it
Mhm.
continues to do after the event too. But it makes me happy when it's Jessica Jones and Luke Cage are the ones that are able to overcome the
Yeah.
Purple Man's
Yeah, his, like,
pheromone.
mind yeah, his whole mind shtick, all that kinda stuff, it does make me happy too, I agree.
You're like,
Ju
"Yeah, yeah, me too. I love it."
No, well, it's exciting. Well, it is because you gotta think, the things that they've been through, they're kind of damaged people. Luke Cage can't die. Had a crazy growing up in Harlem. Jessica
Yeah.
Jones, she's had her dark moments too. They've brought this beautiful life together. They have their daughter, and now it's Luke basically stepping into this big role that he wasn't seeking out the mayoral role,
No.
and he kinda got thrust into this, and this is really his first big test and big moment in front of the entire city where, hey, you don't have to do this. They defeat the purple man. He's standing tall. And, there's an epilogue in the trade. If you've read the trade as well, it kind of goes on after this whole thing where we see Fisk gets away. He doesn't care anymore. He goes and talks to Butch. Butch says, dude, get out of here. You killed my best friend. And him and Typhoid Mary hop on a yacht and are disappearing for a while. But now Luke is mayor. He's sworn in as mayor and he's trying to assemble his crew together. He wants to get, Maria Rambo
Yeah.
to be a part of it. And she says no, but he's out there in the street level, fights Crossbones, beats Crossbones, and he's out there taking taking the streets back. And Jessica Jones has this tender moment where the kids all get put in orphanages and she goes back for Joseph. He's got the power inhibitor on, and she kind of tells him like, hey, you don't have to do this, like you have a choice, and they take him in, and it's just such a beautiful ending to this run, or this big event, I should say.
Yeah, I think it should also be mentioned that at this point in the comics, the public was against powered people.
Yeah.
Like the influence that Kingpin had spread very, very far. So Luke coming into being a mayor, even though he knows most people will hate it, also speaks on to who he is as a character. And Jessica Jones, like I read that part. I don't think I read it in the comics about her going to the orphanage. I saw it in a video because I don't think it's on Marvel Unlimited.
It might not. I have the trade and I was
The
reading through it,
physical.
and it's beautiful. Like a lot of cool artwork as well in the back there, where you got
Yeah.
the page for mayor and all that stuff. But yeah, she really does tell him like, hey, you don't have to do this, and it is absolutely just it's heartbreaking because he's this lost kid, and it's
Yeah.
very sad.
It's wild that this entire whole situation here is built around these children of this absolute dirtbag of
Hmm.
Kilgrave, and they turn out to be just quite the opposite, really, and
Yeah.
they actually genuinely care, and it's like, you guys take after your mothers way more, obviously.
Yeah. And I would like, not for nothing too, when we kind of talked about how Fisk's influence, you can take a lot of things and put it into modern real life perspectives, right? You got to get down to the root of the hatred, the root of the problem, which is what leads Luke to getting to the street level and kind of reworking these heroes for hire type deal, and just really attacking at its roots, which is you got to show compassion.
Mhm.
And but you also do have to attack things. And I think there's a lot of life lessons that could come out of the whole Devil's Reign storyline, which are, yeah, compassion goes a long way.
Mhm.
And you always have a choice of what it is. Sometimes we go too far, but you can come back from that. And then at the end of the day, man, just you do have to fight sometimes, and you have to know when to fight. And fighting isn't necessarily the wrong choice either at times.
I completely agree. I think you took a lot of from Devil's Reign, which I really appreciate because I think the comics in general you can take so much from because it does kind of mirror real life to an extent. There are those stories, there are those life lessons, there are those traditions in these
Mhm.
comics that we should all be paying attention to. And I really like what you said. That was really well said.
It is. And when people, that's my biggest thing is when people are like, oh, you read comic books. And it's, man, there's a lot of things you can take from not just comic books, but normal literature, art, all of that kind of stuff that I think if we put our minds to and paid more attention and cared and showed a little bit more compassion, we'd be a better off society. But that's neither here nor there. This Devil's Reign storyline for me is a 10 out of 10. What
100%.
do you give it? Another
Oh, I
10 right there?
yeah, if I could give an 11, I would. Like I said, it's my
Absolutely.
favorite event. It's fantastic.
It's beautiful. There's a lot of
Yes.
emotion, a lot of fighting, and the artwork is absolutely incredible as well. So for me, we're both 10 out of 10. We're getting ready to be at MegaCon next weekend. So speaking of Daredevil, everybody come out 12:30 p.m. Sunday. We're diving into some Daredevil comic books. Myself and Lauren. Michael might be there, but I think he's not going to be a participant. But we will have Jimmy Palmiotti, who's some of his runs we have covered here, and then we're going to do some giveaways probably as well at the panel. But make sure you do that. Megan, what kind of stuff do you have here for the Nerd Initiative team? Like you and Sean got some interviews rolling.
We have an interview right after this in like 10 minutes. We have an interview tomorrow.
We
We
do.
have interviews with some Marvel comic creators that I think you guys are absolutely going to love, especially our one tomorrow, which I don't want to,
We'll leave it
I'm
to
not
surprise.
ready to pull that
You guys
surprise
should go
yet.
ahead and subscribe to the podcast, social media, hit the notification button on YouTube, because the interview that you guys are about to do is big. And then tomorrow's interview is even bigger, allegedly
Allegedly.
speaking. Oh, look at us. We didn't even plan that. Fun fact.
That was amazing.
Yes, there is one thing that you guys do, man. Every single Monday, first and foremost, we do have Man Without Fear Mondays. We should be back with Daredevil Yellow next week, and with a special guest, of course, because we've been waiting just for that. We have some interviews coming down the pipe that Sean and Megan are doing. Myself, we're going to be on that special interview tomorrow. Saturdays are for the boys, like we've kind of talked about before. So there's something every single day. Make sure to subscribe to Nerd Initiative, YouTube, social media, podcast, wherever you get your content, and do not miss Man Without Fear Mondays, because we've got one more before Daredevil Born Again Season 2, which will be rolling out the post-show discussions, and we're going to continue the comic book runs. Don't worry, we'll be back at it. So thanks everybody for hanging out. We will see you guys later. Peace out.
Goodbye.